Everybody, welcome in. I'm Powerlifting Gamer, aka John, aka Sith. This is Dr. Chris Guy. He's a lead content creator of evidence-based movement, and he also knows a couple things about Instagram. Shameless plug, follow him on Instagram if you like knowledge and smart training and not hurting yourself, or learning to get around hurting yourself.
And puppies.
And puppies. There are puppies there too.
For sure.
So it's definitely worth a follow. But anyway, let's see. I've got a list of interview questions here, but at any point, please feel free to chime in, ask questions. We're just here to learn a little bit about Chris, what his organization's all about, and maybe more about those puppies too. Definitely more about the puppies. All right, so I just figured we start off. Chris, tell us about your education and background. What made you want to pursue research in the fitness world?
Ooh. So I did my undergrad here at USF, go Bulls, and it was in the exercise science department, and essentially I was just doing it knowing I wanted to do physical therapy. At the same time, I was randomly lifting in the gym trying to get people to do like a powerlifting thing, and some random master's student came up to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm starting a powerlifting team." And I was like, "Oh, me too," which is funny because that's kind of what you did to me.
It's kind of the same thing, yeah.
But essentially, he showed me to this lab, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I also want to do research, and I'm really into like picking things up, even though I'm pretty small and skinny and not that strong." And so essentially, it turned out that this lab was part of the exercise science department, and it all just kind of fit in perfectly. I also was really into nerding out on like research and reading up on it and videos and stuff like that at the time. And stuff was kind of shit back then. Like, it's not a family channel, right?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I said fuck shit.
Yep.
Let's get a content
Well,
just for good measure.
Stuff was kind of shit at the time in terms of like what was being recommended, and it wasn't even that long ago. It was like, I don't know, 6 years ago, I'd say. And I still was like, there's a lot more that should probably be learned about this. And so that's kind of where my whole undergrad took me. Got to do a couple of research studies like on powerlifters, in powerlifting, in this lab. And then went to grad school and stay here just so I could pay less money to go to school and keep doing research here, essentially. So,
Nice.
yeah, literally this lab has just sucked me in here for the last 8 years and refuses to let me go, and I refuse to let go. So.
Do you remember what your first project was in the lab?
Yeah, so the first project was to literally like get a powerlifting team in here and get people to lift in here every day at the same time, and it was crazy. Like we had kind of like how we have a solid group now. We had like a dead set 4 days a week, 12 to 15 people every single session. It was pretty sick.
It's intense.
And then we literally just took that through a powerlifting meet, kind of like what we do now, and said, "Hey, everyone who's part of this club and who did the meet, we're doing research studies and powerlifters, come be with us." So
yeah,
that was like our first project. It was like, just get a bunch of people to lift in here. And even the equipment we had in here was like completely different. We actually ripped one of the racks like literally out of the floor and doing rack pulls on it. It was cool. But
nice.
Yeah, after that we started doing it was like daily undulating periodization research.
Say that 10 times fast.
Yep. Also known as DUP, D-U-P.
I like that better.
Yeah. And so we were comparing like a set standard DUP program, which would usually be like a hypertrophy day, a power day, and a strength day. And usually it always goes in that order. And to be honest, like that stuff doesn't even matter. But we wanted to see what happens if you compare that to having what we call a flexible DUP, also known as FDUP. And so comparing DUP,
like that.
yes, we're comparing DUP to FDUP, where you get to pick like, hey, on Monday I want to do my heavy day because I feel great. On Wednesday I want to do the volume hypertrophy day because it's light, so I don't want to kill myself. And then on that Friday, just want to get some like quick work done. Let's do our power day and get some cardio calves and abs going before the weekend.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
Get that pump. So
that was our first study, and like honestly, most training studies you're going to find that it doesn't really actually matter what you do as long as you stick to something consistent. So that was like the very first project we got to do in here, and it was pretty cool. But we had some like disgusting lifting going on. I don't know, is there anyone on here? Do we have any people? If there is, I don't know if you've ever seen like us do AMRAPs here in the lab, when it gets nutty and people are screaming at each other and you're just like repping out something for like a ridiculous amount of reps that you didn't think you could. So we had that in our first study with like 70% of your max, and like we had people taking 70% for like sets of 30 on their AMRAP. Like they would
Damn.
just scream, like literally sets of 30.
Damn.
Yeah, we had one guy do for 3 weeks straight. He
Mhm.
did 30 reps and kept on bumping his weight up another 15 pounds, literally to the point that he was repping out his max for his sets of like 4+. Like
Damn.
That's
intense.
It was ridiculous. So the energy was similar to what we have now, but it was like for science. So it was
For science.
literally, yeah. So it was cool to like kind of have that crazy hardcore screaming at each other, like
Mhm.
slapping people, but then also like recording data at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, oh
yeah.
yes, the velocity of the bar did this.
Oh yeah. So on that front, how do you record the bar speed velocity of? Tell us a little bit about the scientific method you use.
The scientific.
I don't
method.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know the terms. That's why we brought you in.
So essentially what we do is we have a question, whatever it might be. And honestly, like our questions in the lab here are pretty bro. Like, so the first project I ever did on my own in here was, hey, I really love lifting. I'm told I can't lift, 2 days in a row, or I'm told I need to have a day off in between.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say, screw that. I want to lift every day. So my project was, the question I was asking is, what happens if I have one group lift 3 times a week doing a program,
Mm-hmm.
and another group lifting 6 times a week doing the exact same program but half the volume? Because like I was an idiot who just like I wanted to squat every day and like have research telling me that that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
At the time we didn't, and so actually that study I based off of, it was this famous Norwegian powerlifting study where they did just that. It was
Dope.
3
So
days.
Vikings.
Yeah, essentially. So drugs is
what.
most likely. So the study actually never got published. Just the abstract was released, and it kind of like was passed around the strength world, and people were thinking like, "Oh, this is so cool. We should be squatting all the time," and it makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't published, which makes you think, all right, something sketchy must have happened, or someone didn't follow through, like for such a big, following to happen. So essentially, we replicated that study because my question was like, hey, I want to squat and bench 6 times a week and see if I'll die or not. And we got 30 other people on board to, say like, hey, let's try it too.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing you have to do is just ask a question, whatever it might be. And honestly, whatever questions you probably have, other people also have, and it may not actually be answered. And what's cool is we were doing that study at the same time. There's like this huge influx of these frequency studies because people were all kind of at the exact same time after this Norwegian study came out saying like, well, shit, what happens if I lift, 2 times a week or 4 times a week or 6 times a week doing the same exact lift? So we were kind of like up at the front of that like boom of this type of research.
That's awesome. So the Norwegians gave you blue balls and you wanted to know the actual answer.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And so the answer is it didn't really make a difference. Although like benching, you might actually see some further benefits. And that's what we were seeing is you have what's called like statistical significance, where like statistically, is there a big difference, let's say, between one group if their average bench goes up 5 pounds and the other group their average bench goes up 2 pounds? Is that statistically significant?
Right.
In the study we found that it's not, but we also have things called effect sizes, which give us a better idea of like, well, how large of an effect was it? One's just comparing like apples to apples, like is this significantly greater than this, yes or no? But it doesn't actually tell us how much greater it was. So like for someone who's been lifting for 20 years, 5 pounds on their bench is pretty significant to them.
Absolutely.
But statistically, it doesn't actually matter. So we also use effect sizes, which tells you like, okay, was it a 1 pound effect or was this an actual 5 pound effect that could be meaningful to someone? So we found that with the bench press specifically, there might be a little extra edge to having that increase in volume. Increase in frequency, even if the volume is the exact same.
Interesting.
So yeah, to answer your question, you ask a really bro question that hasn't been answered before, and then you decide, okay, how can I convince 30 other people to do this? And you kind of design whatever the study is, and from there you essentially run your study.
But I mean, it sounds like if it's bro enough, then people are going to be curious with you, right alongside you. So it should be overly hard to get those 30 sometimes.
Yeah. No.
That's the bro enough question.
Oh, for sure. And like you always can, the number one sell on everyone is you tell them, hey, you get some free protein at the end of every session, and
sign me up.
Yeah,
shit.
They're literally like that is our seller.
I bet. Savannah says she wants to squat every day too.
Yeah, she can.
And she's gonna bench every day, right?
In the Sith gym. Yes.
Yeah.
Would you have a name for it yet?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm open to ideas.
What do they call like the land Luke enters when he like in Empire Strikes Back when he goes into like to the little forest? Is there a name for that yet?
You mean Dagobah?
Yeah, but okay, obviously
Like that Dark Side Forest.
Yeah, like there needs to be a like the Void or something. I don't know.
Ooh, the Void's a good name. I like that.
Yeah, the Sith Void. I don't know.
Sith Void.
Whatever.
The Sith avoid society.
The Sith. I don't want to let people watch.
You'll be the opposite of the guys that skip leg days. Yeah, you'll only do leg days and skip upper body.
That sounds like the classic.
Savannah says, it's my gym too now. Yeah, she wants it a dual gym, so I have to approve anything by her.
Oh my.
So it's going to be like a Sith and princess or some shit.
Like paint half the rack red, the other half pink.
I like that. Maculito, the science you do is cool, but was common knowledge in the lifting world, but now backed with studies. Okay, so you're saying like things that we thought might be the truth, but yeah, what Chris does is he actually puts them to the test and puts research behind them. So like he's saying, he comes up with a bro question that we all want to know, or we all think, or challenge something that is common bro knowledge, and then go after it to see if it's really true. Right?
Yeah, and like, you'll hear people say all the time, the science is 10 years behind what the coaches are already doing. And like sometimes that is spot on. Like people are willing to kind of rush things and see for themselves if there's results versus putting it up against something like science. And both are really important because one is going to drive the other. And like science isn't meant to give you a clear-cut answer like, yes, this is better than this. So for example, we had this one guy, huge dude, right? Like already benching 400 plus pounds. He was in the group that had to bench 6 days a week and squat 6 days a week. And like he was dying by the end of it, right? Because like for him, he had to squat over 500 pounds 6 times a week. He had to bench over 300 plus pounds 6 times a week. He got crushed. Like, so in the data, you call that an outlier. But at the same time, you have to see that, okay, he is a different case where the science tells me, yes, you should probably bench a little more to get better at benching. But if you're already this strong, then you probably don't need it as much. And so like science is really good for giving you these like long sweeping strokes of generalities, right? So in general, you should squat more than 1 time a week for most people. And then you take that and you apply it to yourself and say like, all right, I feel like ass when I squat more than once a week. I don't want to do that. I feel weaker when I do that. Cool. Well, you take what the science says and then you adjust it to yourself as needed. And you kind of treat yourself like a science experiment. Like, I know my bench is always the best when I bench like 4 to 5 times a week.
See, that makes me hurt physically just by him saying that.
Yeah, and my bench sucks. So like for me to literally put 5 pounds on my bench in 6 months, usually sitting in that frequency is the best thing for me. If I bench 1 to 2 times a week, like it just tanks. I've done it plenty of times, and so I'm a really psycho. What's good?
Oh no, sorry, Striker. I'm blind. What's up, Striker? How you doing?
Yo, what's up? Ask us your
This is
science
Dr. Chris
questions.
Guy. He brings the science into powerlifting.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
So yeah, science is really good for giving us these like general ideas and to kind of go from there, right? It's not, your answer doesn't come from science. That's the place where you pick up and you start, and then you guide yourself and use your own experience to kind of take it through there. Yeah,
so is that kind of where the exception that proves the rule saying comes from? That there's this one guy that, he's the outlier. The benching took a hit because of that frequency, but for everyone else, or not everyone, but for the majority of people, that might make more sense. So it's kind of showing that even though science does show one thing, it's not a hard, fast rule. It's kind of a building point.
Yeah, so like the best way to put it is like science doesn't tell you you're right about anything. It just tells you you're more wrong about other things.
I like that.
Yeah, you're not trying to get answers with science. You're just trying to figure out how you can be less wrong. And so like I used to squat 1 time a week, and I found out from other research, doing my own studies, and just playing with my own kind of training that, okay, I do better when I squat more often, and I accept that that's going to ebb and flow over time.
Right.
Like this time around, getting ready for this meet, I'm squatting a little less than I did in the past, but I feel a little better and I can get through it.
There you go.
So yeah, it's, experience and all those things are going to be great. Where I kind of tag onto that is if you have some guy who's like, oh, I've been lifting for this many years, this is the way I do it, this is how it works, this is how everyone else should do it, and you should pay me tons of money because I say so. That's where I get a little like, can't 100% support that. So like, for example, you'll see like Ronnie Coleman, right? Yeah, so he'll support like this protein. You see his picture, he's got like the bicep flexed over the protein, and he's looking jacked and he's saying, use this protein, you're going to get huge like me. It's like, oh, clearly this guy knows what he's doing.
Use this protein.
Yeah, exactly. He says, use this protein to get jacked like me. But do we know from the science that that's not going to happen? Yes. Is there a lot more to it than just using this protein? Yes, for sure. So
it's almost like false advertising. You just got to be careful with that with your programming.
Right, and it always matters. Like if people are willing to be open about it, like, hey, this is what I do. This works for me because of these reasons.
Yeah,
like, awesome. That makes perfect sense. And usually there's some science to back that up. So like, if we're going to get into drugs, when you look at the research on that, people on drugs, specifically testosterone, they can handle a lot less frequency with these huge big sessions and more time in between. So you look at like Eric Lillybridge, I think he squats heavy every 14 days.
Damn.
But it's shown that people who take drugs, they're neurologically, they're more potentiated and they don't essentially need to practice the movement as often to have that neural drive, right? Strength isn't as simple as like just having giant muscles. It's about having an efficient neural drive to contract the muscles when you want them to. Yeah, that neural drive.
My muscle, basically.
Part of it,
okay.
Sure. If you want to go bro
carry on.
Yeah. So people who are on drugs, they can have essentially this stronger neural drive, training the movements less, which means that, they should train a little differently than us. But it would be one thing for Eric Lillybridge to say like, oh, if you're a 135-pound guy and you're trying to get a squat like me, you need to squat once a day or once every 14 days and do it this way because this is how I do it. It's like, well, not quite. There's other reasons behind what we see. So.
Real quick, I want to catch up with chat here.
Yeah.
So Macalita says 4 times a week is pretty normal. A couple of rep days and some big boy weights. Exactly, Macalito. So you tested the 6 days a week, correct?
Yeah.
Initially, but I mean, like you're saying, you can kind of adapt it to the individual lifter, what works best for each person.
Yeah, and I would definitely say like don't make these huge jumps. So I'm going to pull some more science into it. Research shows that when you make an increase in your volume more than 10% per week, your chances of getting injured goes up like 3-fold.
Damn.
Right?
Okay.
So don't listen to this and be like, oh, this doctor guy with glasses on said bench 6 times a week and I was benching 2 times a week. Let's go 6 times a week. No, you should slowly over years build it up to where you feel best. So I used to bench 2 times a week. I slowly benched 2 times a week and added like a light accessory bench day. And then over time it became this stupid snowball where now I bench 6 times a week and I feel much better doing it. But
it's insane.
Yeah, it's stupid.
All right, Striker, you really like that gym? We do too. We use the nice bowl backdrop here, shamelessly plugging the college.
Yes.
Macalito, I know people that squat 3 times a day, every day. They warm up, do 7 singles. That's a workout. Come back at lunch, repeat, and again at dinner. That sounds like one of the levels of hell, to be honest. Like, I think if I'm going down there, I'm going to be on the squat level where I have to squat 3 times a day. That was like, we don't even need to get any lower than that. We'll just leave him here.
That's it.
He'll be fucking miserable.
So that was actually really popular like 5 years ago, was the whole Bulgarian method of squat every day. There's like books coming out about that called Squat Every Day.
I remember seeing a program on bodybuilding.com called Squat Every Day.
Squat Every Day, exactly. And there was actually a case study done on 3 lifters who squatted every day. It wasn't 3 times a day like what this guy's talking about, but that's not like completely unheard of. But yeah, squat every day is definitely its own level of hell for sure.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it to me. All right, so I have kind of going over some of this, but what's your history, your personal history in powerlifting? How long have you been competing? How long have you been coaching?
Yeah, so let's see. I started competing in 2014, which was the same year that we got started here in the lab. Did meet, loved it. It was kind of everything I was expecting it to be. Before competing, I was like all like watching the YouTube powerlifters and seeing what they were doing. What's up, person? How's it going?
How's it going?
So I started competing then. At the same time, I was writing the programs for the studies in here. So that was like a great opportunity to, hey, you have a couple hundred people that you need to write programs for that are going to follow this, clean scientific method. So that's a good way to kind of force yourself to learn how to write different things.
Yeah.
Then at the same time, I started coaching people that same year, like 2014, really basing it off of what we were doing in here, what we were seeing like other labs do. because there actually are a couple like powerlifting specific labs in the state of Florida specifically. So working a lot with like what they were doing, what we were doing. Had one guy, the first guy I ever coached was a good, like my best friend growing up. Just so happened to be crazy strong and strong enough that in his first year competing, first year competing.
I just met him last year.
First year competing, he ends up going to IPF Worlds. So that was like a cool, like blast me off to like seeing like, oh, this is how a lot of people train on a world level and getting to talk to all those people. And then from there, I've just been coaching like individuals and then trying to help, people on the team here, whether that's like writing a big like team program that I'm still trying to get together for them.
One day.
Yeah. So essentially 2014 is when it started for me, and been coaching ever since. Tons of different people, different populations. I worked with the dean of the College of Education my senior year and convinced her that powerlifting was what she needed to do, and it worked out nicely. So
nice. Getting in with the deans.
Yeah, it was and she would actually come to the lab in here to lift with us.
Really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
While the studies were going on, and people would scream at each other. And she was like this 6-year-old cute little woman, like wearing her USF pants, like, oh, they're very loud in there.
That's awesome.
I've had the opportunity to work with like a very different population.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I really like about your coaching style and method is you don't, like we were talking earlier, you don't do cookie cutter. You realize that everyone lives a little bit differently. You're willing to adapt and change, but still be like, hey, I think this is best for you. But you'll talk to the lifters. You'll find out what works, what doesn't, what makes you feel certain ways. You're not, just, oh, this is what science says, that's what you're doing, period.
Yeah.
You're willing to work with that and use that scientific knowledge to bring that to the programming, but not to restrict you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if anything, like, it's showing that there is no, like, set program or formula that's going to work best for anyone. It's really, like, what do they believe works best for them? How do they feel? What is their perception of their training? It's a lot more than just, like, I'm going to throw these numbers at you and this is going to make you better. It's more of, like, hey, this is what's been shown to work. What works best for you? Let's blend that together and come up with something that I believe will work for you, and that even more importantly, you believe will work for you. Because if you can't have that buy-in on their end, then like everyone's screwed. It doesn't matter how good of a program you write.
Yeah. So that segues very well into one of my other questions, but I'm gonna just catch up with chat here real quick. Samantha says, it's awesome, Chris. That's adorable how you work with everybody, I guess. Venture Action Jesus, welcome in. Team program step 1, reverse grip bicep curls. Ooh, yeah, get that bro pump.
Yeah, got it.
I got little forearms, so I can't.
Forearm going. That one.
I always look extra special doing them. Sup, Mini? Yo, Mac, how you feeling today? All right, they chat. Hungry? Are you hangry yet, though? That's important. There's a big distinction there. Sure. Well, we should talk about diet in a second, too. But the last thing just segued so well into this question I had for you. That you talk about a fair amount about setting expectations with your subjects. Can you just talk about kind of how that works, and like, because you talk a lot about how the client or the subject, whoever you're helping, you need to help mold them mentally as well.
Yeah.
Kind of how they see the training helps a lot.
For sure. So a lot of this applies to like my background in physical therapy as well, where setting expectations can actually be more important than the treatment itself. So to dive down into a nerd hole real quick, since this is where everything starts for me. If you take two groups, right? You know what E-stim is, where like you put a little pad on them and you shock them for a little bit, and they're like, oh wow, this feels great. So if you literally do that, one group you just plug them in, sit them on a table, plug them in, turn it on, and walk out of the room. The other room, you literally just plug them in and talk to them about their day. Like just talk to them. That group will have significantly less pain, right? Nothing changed, there's no difference, but you're affecting their perception by just talking to them. If you take that to another level, and as you're plugging them in, you tell them, hey, this is really going to help a lot with your pain. You're setting the expectation that like, hey, this is going to help me, I'm going to get something out of this. Is this a placebo effect? Sure it is, but there's no reason to not run with that placebo effect. There's even like open trial or open placebo trials where they give both groups placebo pills. They tell a group, hey, this is just a sugar pill, but even just taking a sugar pill has been shown to actually help you. It's with irritable bowel syndrome, but literally just taking this sugar pill has been shown to help people with their IBS. And setting that expectation, they even find that they have less IBS, even knowing that this is a fake pill.
The mind's a powerful tool.
So there's a lot of kind of power behind that, and it's not on me to to dupe you and be like, oh, you're going to squat 500 pounds because I said so, and we're going to use this special program, but rather to set the stage that, hey, what we have for you is based off of what you find best for you, what I find best for people, and we're bringing this together to make the best thing possible for you. Like that can be really powerful for a lifter. To know every time they come in that, hey, this is specifically made for me. This is what's going to be best for me. And it doesn't even have to be on that much of an individual level. It can even be like, hey, this has worked for a bunch of other people. There's no reason it shouldn't work for me. And so like just starting off the bat of understanding that, hey, this is what's going to make me better can already have a huge effect. From there, it really comes to actually listening to what people say in terms of like, hey, what do I feel works best for me? And then, knowing as a coach, is this a moment where I have to educate them or de-educate them that, hey, maybe what you're feeling is perfectly normal. So you're really beat up. You're 2 weeks out from a meet. You feel like shit. Good. That's kind of how it should feel. We're not trying to break you, but
right there.
Yeah. And so like having that understanding and kind of setting it along, letting someone know that you're along with them for the ride, that this is what we plan to see, and in 2 weeks when we drop the volume down, I plan that you're going to feel much better, and then when you deload and you're hitting your openers, I plan that you're going to feel kind of on edge and you might be psyching yourself out, but when you're on the platform and you're doing what actually matters, that things are going to be right, and
it's all going to fall into place.
Yeah, exactly. And so like just having a conversation with someone about what they feel and kind of getting that feedback from them can be huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. That's one thing that I know I really appreciate, because I tend to be the kind of lifter. I've always been the competitive type that is extremely hard on myself, and you always tend to bring me back from the edge. You'll let me throw my temper tantrum, and then we'll talk about it after, and you'll just be like, why did that upset you? And then you'll be like, this is okay. This is what we're going to do to improve it. This is, you're this much time out. You have this much time, this. And it always kind of realigns my thinking a little bit. Brings me back from the brink again after I get the temper tantrum out of the way.
You gotta do it.
I'm a very rage passionate lifter, so I kind of get that out of the way, and then he brings me back to logic and reason afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, like in the end of the day, like as long as you don't quit, for the most part, you're always gonna get stronger. Like you're not. It's not like you're some 60-year-old guy who you're just trying to hold on to every bit of strength as much as possible. Like as long as you keep on going. Like nature is going to work itself out. You're applying stress to your body. You are going to adapt to that stress as long as you're not being a complete idiot about it, which most people aren't, unless they're getting themselves hurt, which is like, for me, even if people have really shit days where their performance just sucks and blows, like, sure, be upset about it, but you're not hurt. You're going to come back a week later and we're going to figure it out and make it right for you.
Yeah, that's what you always tell me. It always helps realign me for the next time. Even if I feel like that training session is lost, just you saying stuff like, doesn't matter, next week you're going to crush it, you got this, and this coming, just focus on that. It does help kind of bring me back. So I know you do that for a lot of lifters.
Yeah, I mean, like, your arm was literally half the size. Like, your right arm, like, what, 9 months ago?
Yeah, just over 9, almost 10 now.
Yeah, like.
It was tiny.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Like your body.
It was the size of my forearm, if that.
And like your hand was super weak, and like your body can do some pretty crazy things if you just let it happen.
Yeah.
And don't interfere with it as much as possible. Which usually thinking and being worried and being anxious, which is all like completely normal things, but usually it only makes things worse. But at the same time, like. There are times where it's like, all right, we really need to kind of readjust and kind of refocus the plan and find it out from there.
Right.
But as long as you're willing to be open about anything, like you're going to figure it out.
Macaulito, who's the friend that went to Worlds? He wants to know.
Oh, so the guy I coached, his name is Brandon Jeter. I think he might have deleted his Instagram.
Damn.
Let me check right quick.
He went dark.
Yeah, he went to law school, and that was the end for him.
And
stupid.
Zhao says he's so smart.
So yeah, the one guy was Brandon Jeter, and then Oh man, let's see.
Is he back?
Is that even him? No, that's
Looks like a lot of baby pictures.
Yeah, hopefully not him. So yeah, that was him. And then also at the exact same year, Hamza, who's on our team now, was at Sub Junior Worlds at that same year. It was in Texas, thank God, that year. That's the only reason I was able to go, because the year before that was Finland. The year before that was South Africa. The year after that was Belarus. So like Texas was our best shot, and we took it and we got there. So there was him, and then I was also with Hamza at the time, you know, as he was like going through his own full experience. I wasn't coaching him at the time though, and then picked up with him after. Yep. So.
Savannah says she appreciates you bringing me back from the brink. I was pretty emotional before you. I was always emotional. I always will be. I've just tried to learn to limit it a little bit.
Man,
just a little bit.
I mean,
well, not really limited at the time. I limit it afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
As much as I can.
You cry a little less in your car.
Exactly.
After the session.
Totally less. It's fine. All right. So again, everybody, this is Dr. Chris Guy. If you have any questions, please feel free to jump in. We're going to get to you as soon as he's wrapping up his questions. I just don't want to interrupt him, but please keep shooting. We got a little bit longer here to bombard him with questions and get all that scientific knowledge. Belarus and South Africa, big yikes for travel. You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong.
It's probably the less scary areas of Belarus. But to be honest, Worlds was in Killeen, Texas that year. Which
Killeen?
Yeah, Killeen, Texas. So we like IPF Worlds is the closest thing to the Olympics aside from the World Games, where you can actually get like a solid group of international lifters to compete against each other. Like to me, unless you're crazy strong and on drugs and strong enough to get into the U.S. Open, IPF Worlds is the next best thing to do. With the Open and those kind of lifting, you get paid, and that's what makes it worth it. You usually only go against Americans with like a few international lifters, but IPF Worlds is the only time where you will actually get like a full collection of full international teams from across the world. And they decided to put that in Killeen, Texas, of all places, which like literally we got there 2 days early, and we're talking to all the other lifters who were at like the local Gold's gym, because that was the only gym that was there. And there's people from like Australia, you know, New Zealand, Japan, and we're talking to them, and we're like, what are you guys doing for fun around here? Because like they got there 2 weeks early. They want to like adjust to the time zone. They're like, we went shooting. Yeah. Literally.
So stereotypical.
Yeah, there was like 2 places to eat some barbecue and 1 movie theater, and that was it. All of Killeen, Texas.
Sounds like where I did some training for a couple months.
Yeah.
Goodfellow Air Base in Texas, and it was in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
There's nothing around.
We're still like just in shock of like, who decided? Like, it's cool, I get it, Texas, like if you're going to do Worlds, sure, that's not the worst place to have
Antonio or Dallas or
like
Houston.
Something. Yeah, no, Killeen.
Killeen.
I'm sure there's some reasoning behind it, like the meat director probably lived there, and money talks. Not to slander the IPF or the USAPL.
No, we would never.
But I mean,
we love all feds here.
Yeah, Killeen, Texas. They should reevaluate that one. Luckily, they did Equipped Worlds a year later, and that was in Orlando, Florida. So like that was a little better. But it's equipped, so like no one in the US like cares about that.
All right, so now's the time. Shameless plug. I want you to tell me all about evidence-based movement. What are your goals of the platform? What do you do? How does it kind of work day to day? How often do you post? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, so EBM's a Instagram page, and if there's anyone on here from EBM,
shout out.
So it's an Instagram page that I, myself, and another individual from Duke, who actually went to USF. He was the year ahead of me in the exercise science program. It was like his idea and his conception, and he kind of called me and was like, hey, I see you're really into research and all these things. I want to start a social media page with a couple other guys from Duke. This is what I want it to look like. And like to me, I was like, this actually looks cool. You know, he laid out an awesome plan. You know, it seems sustainable long term, and there was nothing out there that was like it. And so we kind of took it from there and have been running with it since 2016. Have built a pretty solid following on Instagram, and really haven't tried to like monetize off of it or anything. Just keeping it like fun, research-driven, information for physical therapy, sports performance training, and then obviously my passion of powerlifting. I try to tie it in as much as possible, and then combine all that and put as many dog pictures to it as possible because dogs. And so currently I do 6 posts a week with them. It's multiple people who all kind of come together and think of what we want to post about, what studies we want to cover, how we want it to look. I'll make them, I send it to the group of all of us, and we kind of tinker with it, say, oh, we should change this, oh, just send it out. And we've been doing that consistently for the last few years, and really it's just been about growing it, keeping it fun. I don't think there is a single like evidence-based or research-based Instagram page for physical therapy or sports performance that's bigger than us. There used to be a guy, Chris
Weird
Beardsley.
flex, but okay.
It's something that like we always pay attention to because like there's more people coming out with it, and that's even cool to see. Like, hey, this is something that more people are interested in, and more people are wanting to kind of take this forward. And so, long term, we're just planning to continue with these things, and eventually work with more on the physical therapy side because we have things like continuing education that we have to fulfill to hold our license. So we want to create like continuing education courses. We want to have a platform where it's easy to access research-based things, and then eventually take it with what I personally care about, which is specifically like powerlifting. I want to have my own little hole of like EBM powerlifting specific things and let everything else branch out and grow. Obviously I'm into physical therapy and all those things, but powerlifting is where that's where my research expertise is. That's where I want to continue to boost that while we just continue to bring the page and keep it going. So that's cool. Yeah, it's been cool and fun just to kind of like interact with the world and see where differences are being made, and where 5 years ago you could make a claim and say something and people they wouldn't bat an eye. They'd be like, yeah, that guy looks smart, that sounds good. Yeah. Whereas now if I put something out there, someone's gonna say oh, I want this study to support what you've told me. I want to see it for myself. I want to be able to read it and interpret it for myself. Which is cool because that just makes them better. They want to read it for themselves. They're not willing to listen to what we have to say at face value, which to me, that's awesome. I love when people question what we have to say and challenge the ideas, because that's how someone truly grows, and that's how an entire industry really grows. And it seems that fitness, physical therapy, all of those things have significantly grown in terms of what we're willing to accept and take, and what we're going to call people out on. So.
That's actually kind of my next question. I was going to follow up. So you kind of have seen a bit of a shift in the research and fitness side of things, where people want to see, proof that what you're saying is real instead of just bro facts all over the place.
Yeah, essentially, people are kind of smartening up and being like, well, that makes sense for these reasons, but I've heard otherwise. Can you support what you're saying, or are you just saying listen to me because I'm jacked and huge?
Glasses,
because I have glasses on.
The glasses every time.
So yeah, there definitely is that shift, and even a shift in why people are getting exercise science degrees now. 5-10 years ago, people were coming in wanting to get their degrees so they could be a strength and conditioning coach or get into that field somehow. Where now that's completely flipped on its side. I see more people now coming to the exercise science program, specifically the master's program, wanting to get a PhD and continue to do science on these topics. And not do strength and conditioning because they're kind of seeing oh, wow, that's a really crazy lifestyle that I don't want to have. I'd much rather science is becoming the cool thing for
science, bitch.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've seen, even on an academic field. This is what people are interested in. In a lot of ways, social media is now influencing academics and influencing what we study and why we study it, which is even cooler to me.
Okay, I was just going to ask if that's a positive or a negative.
No, I think it's positive. Yeah, I think it's definitely a positive. People are now seeing what other people are posting about and talking about and asking them, when I did my first study on the Norwegian powerlifting study, that's something I read on a blog about and said, oh, that's pretty cool, but I'm going to call BS on that. Let's see what happens. And that's how we did our, the first study that I got to run on my own here. Awesome. So yeah, it's cool to see how that progresses forward and how much it's really changed. Because even Dr. Campbell, shameless plug to him, but he's been getting on Instagram and he's been building his own little following. And that in itself has gotten people from literally across the nation and even across the world to seek this university out, and it's because of like his presence on social media. So like it's cool to see where that all blends in.
That's awesome. I want to catch up with the chat here real quick. Polar Knights, welcome in. Give me 1 second here. Mid-Traction Jesus says, wasn't the Belarus year the one that right before the meet a few tourists were killed? Jesus. That's what you remember about it?
Yeah, it was 2017, so if you want to... It's probably
Yeah. All right. Savannah says, looks like an American soldier got thrown off a 10th floor balcony. Maculito. Damn, you guys are wild. Wasn't that? I think you did the wrong ad, Savannah. Shh. According to Google. All right. I like your page, Chris. Even though I don't lift, I feel like I learn a lot from it and can put it into motion now that we've started a home gym.
Hey.
There you go. Hey.
Just start lifting now. That's all she needs.
I've been trying, man. Yeah.
Fine.
Savannah kicks ass when she lifts, but she doesn't give herself enough credit. And she sees how crazy I am with it, so I'm sure that's a bit off-putting.
Like, oh, that's what's going to happen to me.
Oh, no, I don't want that.
I mean, like...
I don't want to wear heavy lifter shirts walking around.
Even that, like, you just have to find whatever it is that you enjoy and go with it. It doesn't have to be squatting, benching, and deadlifting, but whatever you find, like, actively, like, in terms of, like, actually making your life better and longer and all these things, like, figure out what you enjoy first and take it off from there. Yeah.
All right, Mishgashies. Someone near me is selling a full commercial gym setup of machines. Time to open a gym. Hell yeah. Polar, my pathetic attempt at a beard or his slightly less pathetic attempt at a beard?
It's definitely pathetic.
Okay. He says, I tried to get a beard, but my girlfriend told me if I get a beard, she grows a 70s bush. And after Googling and seeing what sadly can't be unseen, baby face it is for me. I will test her on it when bikini season starts, but for now, baby face it is. That's the scientific research we really need to get into.
Wow. Deep.
That's awesome, Polar Knights. All right. Miniature Action Jesus has an education question. Do you ever see people come into the master's program from different bachelor's programs? Like I have a bachelor's in education, but I'm throwing around the idea of jumping to something else down the road.
Yeah, we had a guy, I believe he might have either been getting or gotten his master's in engineering.
Does your thing over there?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to make him wait too long.
No, you're good.
Keep talking until I find people.
So yeah, we definitely have, I've seen people from tons of different backgrounds, people with like dance degrees where it's still somewhat relative. But what I find even most interesting is people who get like their business degrees and then go into a master's program in something completely different. Because like having that business mindset, I think is really cool, and what most people who have more of a like science background really suck at. I know like for myself, I'm just starting to learn about these things like now, teaching myself, I can find like Reddit and YouTube. Whereas like people who have like a business mindset and who are willing to apply that to whatever that master's degree or master's program is, can be a huge win for them and can actually make it really valuable. So even Dr. Campbell actually like got his degree in marketing, I think it was, and then like went and sold fertilizer and realized like, oh, this isn't what I want to do with my life, and I love lifting, so let me just get a PhD in that. And if you're going to talk to Dr. Campbell, like he 100% has a business mindset behind everything that he does, because that's what his like background education was in, and that I find that makes him more successful in a lot of things than me, who I only see through things through this like exercise science kind of lens, and I miss out on a lot of other things because I don't have that other background to come from. So yeah, I think it's really cool if you can have that other background, and you're almost always going to apply something to whatever it is you're going to get deeper into, right? Even if you have like an art degree, you might see things way more differently than someone who has an exercise science degree going into whatever that master's program is. And I think that's really cool, and that's like how you create real value in whatever it is that you're going to do.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah. Very cool. Spicy Cajun Fries, Amtrin. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. He says, Amtrin says he has a question as well. Who's your favorite viewer? I'm not allowed to answer that, so I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say it's Savanimal because she's my wife, and she'll hurt me if I don't say that.
Hey.
So there you go. Cop-out answer.
Can't say that's why, though. You're just supposed to look at the
She's
camera.
like, now I'm going to kill you for saying that, but, you know, it's a lose-lose. That's marriage, everybody.
Shit.
I'm really going to get my ass beat.
Yeah.
All right, miniature action. Jesus says, I have a similar problem. Being a teacher is great, but the stress is immense where I am. I had thought about looking for a master's in something more fun and lower stress.
Yeah.
And Savannah says, why the fuck is that the cop-out answer?
Yeah, so like in my opinion, most of the time, people nowadays are becoming overeducated because they feel they need a degree in something in order to do something. So like for the field I wanted to do, which was physical therapy, like you have to get a degree, you have to get licensed, you have to follow this path. Whereas a lot of other degrees and reasons people think they want a said degree isn't actually what it used to be, right? People used to go to college to find out what they want to do. Now you go to college so you can do what you want to do. And so I see a lot of people they're unsure, they don't know quite what they want to do. So they're like, well, let me get this master's degree in this. At the same time, if you find that like, okay, there's a lot that needs to be learned on this sector of whatever it is I'm interested in, and I need to apply that to what it is I want to do with my future, then yeah, by all means, I say go for it. That's most of the time, master's degrees isn't really about the content that you're going to learn, but more so the opportunities that you're going to have to meet other people, to further your knowledge, and to use that time that you have to do like actual hands-on work and actually build experience. So if you're just looking to learn information, you can honestly learn so much that can take you so far and really well on the internet. Like, bar none, if you have good resources, and we all have Google, like there's so many good things that you can learn from it. But at the same time, if it's like, okay, I need to have something planned out for me, I need to meet people, I need to get into this industry somehow, then yeah, I think that's where like a degree fits in really nicely. So it's always give and take. Lately I've been like nerding hard into like real estate investing and investing in general, and like the things that I'm learning on YouTube just like amazes me, because like people get like degrees and they get licensures and certified for these things that you can learn on your own. Really, really smart people about it. So I'm all for college and furthering your education, but I'm also all for saving money, because that's just how I've always been.
That's awesome.
Hope that gives some perspective.
We're kind of running out of time here, everybody, so if you guys have any quick questions, let me know. But other than that, I'm going to give him a question rapid fire. Just give me like a few word answers here. But real quick, I'm going to catch up. Savannah, I'm just a sarcastic asshole, so it's just my sarcastic, funny answer. But you are my favorite everything.
Oh my goodness.
Aww. I don't know why I involved Chris and me in a personal appeal to you. Now I'm going to get shit for that.
We're now your favorite everything.
Spicy says, I come from an engineering background, so the way I think about lifting is how the movement should be and analyze a lot, which takes a lot of time. I mean, that's a good thing in my opinion, Spicy.
Yeah.
You can ask him, but he's all about the biomechanics of everything as well.
Yeah, for sure. I love kind of breaking things down to that level. I also love trying to make things as simple as possible. But to me, like, in order to make something really simple, you have to have a good, strong understanding, like an engineer would, to be able to apply that. So I think that's cool that you can have that perspective. And I'd say like the challenge from there should be like, how do you simplify it as much as possible in your own head and in someone else's head if you're going to try to work with them or fix them.
I think an engineering background would transfer very well to lifting.
Oh, for sure.
That sounds awesome.
No, definitely.
And Savannah says she accepts your half of the heart.
Let's go.
All right, Chris, you ready?
Yeah.
Question rapid fire to bring us home here.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite movie?
Star Wars, all of them.
Which one?
All of them.
No, which one?
Oh, jeez.
If you had to pick one. There's the right answer.
But everyone says 5, so like 5's the shit.
Sometimes science proves the right one, or less wrong.
But Rogue One is also sick, and
okay.
I loved Episode 3. Episode 2 wasn't even that bad, even though Anakin's...
You stop. Okay. Next question. Favorite music genre?
Oh, give me like ugly, dirty metal. Like,
Okay. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
it's
The
crunchy as
grindy, screamy. Okay.
I love it, but
Favorite-
but musical.
That's questionable some of the times.
No.
Favorite food?
Spinach pie. Let's go.
What the
Yeah,
fuck?
dude,
I don't know
so-
what I was expecting. I was
Uh-huh.
not expecting spinach pie. Anyway,
Spinach pie made by my mom.
powerlifting inspiration or goals person.
Oh, geez.
Favorite person in powerlifting.
I don't know. That's actually a good question.
Boom. These are supposed to be the quick ones.
Yeah, this isn't very.
You can't think of a single name.
Honestly, I think a lot of people are crazy cool to like kind of watch from the side. Like it's fun watching like Dan Green and Kayla Woolham like just do their thing. So
Okay, good answers. All right, hardest course you took in college?
freaking Chem 2. I hate chemistry.
That
Although I guess
sounds
if we're gonna include like my first year of school was med school, so cancer biology.
Cancer biology.
There you go.
Damn. Okay,
That really sucked.
All right, favorite subject to study, and not powerlifting, like a really specific.
Like anatomy and physiology, like that's supposed to be like my expertise, and like it better be if you're gonna be like
How the body moves, kind of thing.
how the body moves, what's where. Like you should be able to point to anywhere on a person and like name that vein. Yeah, that's VMO, vastus medialis.
You could be making shit up, and
No.
I'd say, wow.
Yeah, like
All right, last one. Who's your favorite 6'6", 275 class powerlifter? You're like Thor Bjornsson.
Get out.
Get the fuck out, Chris. All right, everybody, let me catch up here. Ooh, Venture Action Jesus says Return of the Jedi. I almost said the OG title.
my.
You know, it was originally going to be Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah, I did.
But they changed it.
As a kid, I love Return of the Jedi was like one of my tops, and then
Mhm.
like as you get older and mature, and you watch Episode 5 again, you're like, this makes me cry, and I love it. Yeah.
Spicy Cajun says, I get that answer on the musical answer for your
Yeah, see, you don't actually have to be saying things. I just have to like understand it. You know, that's what it's about.
All right, I'm sure I'm going to come back to your actual question in a second, but Venture Action Jesus is Spanakopita. That's a food, right?
Yeah, that would be spinach pie.
Is it?
Yeah.
And then Spicy says cheating. I'm not sure if that's in reference to me referencing myself and telling him I'm his favorite powerlifter, but Amtrin wants to know is, I'm not sure if that's an actual term or if I'm an idiot, but it's Tein,
Where are you?
Teein, useful to build muscle? Or is that meant to be creatine maybe?
Yeah, if it's creatine, then hell yeah. If it's whatever that word is, then I'm sorry, I don't
Check your
know
research,
that.
Chris. Come on, you're supposed to
No,
know. What...
creatine is sick. Everyone should be on it. Like my 3-year-old nephew needs to be on it.
Do you cycle creatine?
No, just take it all the time. 5 grams for most people. If you're as big as him, 7 grams.
Oh, it's the stuff you find in black tea.
Yeah, so that's like more into like the supplement science, and for the most part, like my keeping things as like blatantly simple as possible. Like if you're gonna go to anything for supplements, go creatine, whey protein, and caffeine. Like you will cover like supplements already cover a very slim percent of like how much benefit you'll get, and those 3 things will cover 98% of those slim things already. But you know, there's always new things coming out to learn about. That I haven't heard as much on.
Interesting. All right. Caffeine and tea. Yeah, caffeine is in most teas, I think, unless it's decaf.
Caffeine's sick.
I
Go
don't know.
for caffeine.
All the caffeine.
Caffeine's pretty crazy performance enhancer.
Miniature Action Jesus says, if I forgot a day of creatine, how much gain did I lose? And then
All of them. Yeah,
all of them. Yeah,
everything.
you might as well just stop
Yeah,
lifting.
but if you
you're
snort
done.
it the day after, then you'll be
It makes
fine.
up for
Yeah.
it, but double the amount.
That's
so we
not
gotta
advice, though. Yep.
go. Ian is the caffeine and tea. Interesting. Well,
Yeah, then
Chris is pro caffeine,
go
so
for caffeine, even though I don't take any. Like
fuck it.
I reserve it for the
I'm
day
about to
I
take
pull.
a pre-workout.
The day I pull 700 is the day I take caffeine. So just wait until then.
700 total.
No, so the day I pull 700 from the floor is the day. I take it.
Damn. All right, everybody. So this has been Dr. Chris Guy with us today. if you like what you saw, if you're curious about more, please hit us up. Evidence-Based
Sure.
Movement on IG. Please follow him. They're an awesome page. They're really knowledgeable about all sorts of stuff. Drop knowledge bombs every day that just make my head go poof. And they give you like a preview of what their research is going to be, and then they show kind of the whole breakdown of it. They're very interesting. But I'll let Chris do his version of that blurb in a second. But also be sure, if you have any more questions going forward, we would love to do this again sometime. I mean, hell, I learned a lot just sitting here. So we'd love to do this again sometime. If you got more questions about powerlifting, about movements, about Chris's puppies, we didn't even get into his personal life at all, really. So, I mean, if you have more, feel free to hit us up. We're happy to do another one of these. But, well, shameless plug on my end. We're about to switch over and actually do the lifting side of things. We're going to throw up a little, stay, because it's my last heavy deadlift session. I don't know what you're doing, Chris. Probably everything. Getting weird. But we're going to get real weird. It's Singlet Saturday, so stick with us if you're into that kind of thing too. Chris, tell us about Evidence-Based Movement on the way out here.
Yeah, so we're on Instagram, Evidence-Based Movement. Follow us. Everything's free for now. We're not going to really change much. We post a lot of evidence-based stuff. We talk to people all the time. So if you have any questions on that, feel free to shoot us messages, comment on us, call us out, be like, that's BS, I disagree with you. We'll fight over things and enjoy all of it.
But like smart fighting, they do like, please cite your resources.
We'll do some dumb fighting too if you're into that. And yeah, thank you guys for always being on here. I always see John talking to all of you, so it's cool to be able to have a chance to talk to you guys too. So, thanks.